Welcome one, welcome all to a special first time ever live bonus edition of the NFC East Mixtape. You can listen to this show on any of SB Nation's 4 NFC East blogs. That's Blogging the Boys for Dallas Cowboys content, Bleeding Green Nation for those EAGLES Eagles, Hogs Haven for the Washington Commanders, the game that's about to kick off behind us, and of course, a Big Blue View for New York Giants content. You can watch this normally on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel. We'll get the video up over there in the aftermath, but we are streaming it live on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. We are he is him, Brandon Lee Gowton of Bleeding Green Nation. I am RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys. Brandon, it is the first Cowboys-Eagles matchup of the season. This is actually our second season doing the NFC East Mixtape, and it took all the way until now to get us to do a live show. Welcome. I see you. This is no different for you and I, except for the fact that there are a little bit more high stakes involved.
I appreciate you saying that I am him. Very kind words. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you meant it like that, but I will take it like that. I will accept it. Big, gigantic matchup, RJ. It's only right. It's good that we didn't do this for a lesser game, I think. This is a huge game. Everyone knows that, but not just the stakes of it all, but the energy. I've said, you can make the case it's the biggest game of the season. Obviously, Bills Chiefs has a claim to that, but whatever. Who cares about the AFC, baby? AFC doesn't matter. NFC as a whole doesn't even matter. It's all about NFC East.
We were the first division to have a mixtape, right? There's a copycat mixtape floating around SB Nation. Maybe the boss, Michael Kist, who says "it me" in the YouTube chat. By the way, Michael Kist is on Twitter at Michael Kist NFL, and everybody blow him up and bother him until he agrees to figure out a live NFC East mixtape show, live recording somewhere TBD. That's up to Kist. I don't have any, preference on that, BLG. Do you? I mean, it's up to Kist. He can send us wherever he wants to.
I think it makes sense to do Philly first.
I meant the establishment, not the city or anything like that. I'm getting a little bit more specific. Like I'm dropping a pin. You're casting a very, very wide net. He does.
Well, the city would be a good place to start, and then we can figure out which venue in that city makes sense for it in terms of audience, like reception, head count.
Let's just do it at the link, 50-yard line, right there.
Yeah, I'm sure the Eagles will let us do that. I'm sure that won't be a problem.
We do have a mix of Cowboys and Eagles fans here. Eagles Fly 33 says definitely not the real Michael Kist. Jason Renfro says hello, Cowboys Nation. Kyle Wolf says RJ Goat Choa. That would be me. Nobody has called you the Goat yet, although you have been called Kist. The longtime listener, Ricky Bobby, basically.
Rich
says
Bobby.
Kist. I know, but like it reads Ricky Bobby in my mind, and I can't not make the joke.
Don't get his name wrong.
I'm not. I said, look, if whatever. By the way, Jason Renfro notes that Houston won again today. Houston Astros first team.
All right, get the baseball.
First team to 2 wins in the division series.
No one cares. Get the Astros out of here.
Shackle Benjamin says Ada is the GOAT. That would be me. So, Brandon, Dallas Cowboys at Philadelphia Eagles. The line currently, according to our friends at DraftKings. By the way, DraftKings, our presenting sponsor on the SB Nation NFL show, where you can hear Brandon and I tomorrow with our good pal Rob Stats Guerrera. Use code SBNNFL for a special offer when you sign up today. That's a free ad. You know what I mean? Just free, not really, but kind of. Whatever the case is. Anyway, Cowboys 6.5-point dogs against the Philadelphia Eagles. How are you feeling about that? Does that make you nervous to be that big of a favorite?
Not at all.
Oh my gosh. The guy who has by the way taken every single team except for the Cardinals to cover against the Eagles this season. You're not nervous at all.
I mean, and also they didn't cover last week naturally when I do that. But no, honestly, no, because here's why. I feel like people are way too overcorrecting on the coming out of the week 5 thing and be like, I don't know about this Eagles team. The Cowboys are on the rise. Cowboys keep winning with Cooper Rush, and the Eagles, I don't know about them. Jalen Hurts hasn't had his best game the last 2 weeks. I'm not worried about it. I think this matchup is almost being overthought. It's Cooper Rush, who has
for
played.
Now for that there is it's 99% sure. Cooper Rush. That's my own personal estimation. If you care about,
and we can talk about that too. I mean, so you're buying that? It's 99%.
I mean, so it's worth mentioning that today we're doing this live. It's Thursday, October 13th. Just so close to a Friday the 13th at 7 p.m. Central Time. And Dak was a limited participant in Thursday's practice. First time since all of this happened that he's been at least that. Something I have said a few different times on a few different shows. I'll also be on BGN Radio with our good friend John Stolness tomorrow, so looking forward to that. The Cowboys are very, very famously guarded under Mike McCarthy with this kind of stuff. I don't know how well you remember this, but the first Cooper Rush start, which occurred last season, which was also on Sunday Night Football, also on the road, that was against my Minnesota Vikings. That was coming off of the bye for the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott coming off the calf injury. And nobody, everybody kind of thought what's going to happen, this and that. It was a big old secret. And it wasn't until Sunday when the Adam Schefters and the Ian Rappaports did their kind of national news dump that we found out that Cooper was going to be starting. So this is following that line of action. I don't buy that personally. I don't buy that Dak's going like surprise on Sunday. But I do think it's possible. Like there's precedent for that to happen, although the other way around, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that they would want to get him a full week, especially that's the thing. If Dak plays, he's playing where he didn't take the full amount of starters reps going into this. He just didn't because he was limited in practice today, didn't practice on Wednesday. So, okay, he's disadvantaged from that standpoint. He's also disadvantaged from the standpoint that like it's his first game back and he might not be totally 100%. If you look at the original time frame that was given, it was what, 6 to 8 weeks, and it's really only been 5. So it's a little bit under that. So
it was 4 to 6 weeks after surgery, and Monday will mark 5. So Monday will mark like the exact middle point of that. To your point, even though there was all the like conversation, like, well, maybe Jerry kind of hyped it up that he would play for the Commanders game, which was now 2 weeks ago, which is silly to think about. The whole purpose of doing this live, Brandon, not to throw us off topic or anything like that, but was to involve the listeners, the loyal listeners, as they have dubbed themselves, the mixologists. We're still kind of workshopping all these names, but Kyle Wolf asked us both, which
good
player
question by Kyle
are you most afraid of on the opposing team? Now, I would like to evolve Kyle's question just a bit. You cannot say Micah Parsons,
right?
And I want you to pick somebody that I can't say. Like, so let's establish some parameters here.
I mean, I guess you can't say AJ Brown. Would that be your pick?
I don't think it would have been. But
okay.
But
well, then what would your obvious pick be? Why don't you say?
I think the obvious pick is Jalen Hurts. I mean,
okay,
he inherently is. He's the quarterback. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot there, and the Cowboys have been most susceptible defensively this season to mobile quarterbacks, and obviously Jalen is one of the very best in the NFL. I would say Devontae. That's probably because we saw Cooper Kupp. Trayvon Diggs has not been beat a lot this season. I think there's still a national misconception that like, oh, he's this all or nothing guy. But he did get beat last week by Cooper Kupp, and it was a consequential beat. Trayvon got beat on 2 plays, and they both led to points for the Rams. And he even tweeted after the game, those 10 points are on me. Devontae is that guy. I mean, he is him in that respect. Not that AJ Brown is not talented in his own right. I've already eaten the appropriate crow for that. But Devontae is like the X factor, if you want to call somebody that can flip that switch in that particular sense that I don't think AJ Brown can, if that makes sense.
I think this could be a really big AJ Brown game, and here's why. I think back when the Eagles played the Lions in week 1 and Devontae Smith had 0 receptions, it was kind of an anomaly, kind of a weird game where he had multiple targets, but there's a penalty and whatever, it got wiped out. They made a very intentional effort to get him the ball on the first play of the next game. And then throughout that game against the Vikings, obviously he had the bigger game in week 3 against the Commanders. But I think there's going to be a bit of a correction after they very strangely underutilized AJ Brown, which I talked about on the already on the podcast episode of the mixtape this week. So I think that's going to be big. Also, I don't know that this is going to be true, but I've seen some inklings that it could be the case. The Eagles sent out this announcement, like their game day schedule, like here's when the gates open, here's when, like all this like rundown of their game day thing. And then I'm pretty sure they don't usually have this. Shout out to the Noid at Avoid the Noid in my mentions who sent me this, where it's a little highlight over 8:19 ahead of the 8:20 kickoff. Special
Eastern time. The wrong time, right?
The right time. Special pre-kickoff performance. Like, what could be like a 1-minute performance before the game? So my theory here is actually the Noid's theory that I'm stealing here, is that they're going to do the bat signal in some form with talking about AJ Brown being swole Batman and Devontae Smith being skinny Batman and Quez Watkins obviously being fast Batman. So I think they're going to pull out some kind of big stop like that. It's not dumb. It's really good.
If you're going to do something like that, the least dumb thing is some sort of like Jason Kelsey like rally. You know what I mean? Like at least that I can like respect that. This good. Batman, like the Batman thing is too much of an inside joke. There will be so many people who like don't understand it.
Not true. AJ Brown had a cape on the sideline against the Commanders. It's going to be there. It's going to be good. AJ Brown's going to have a big game. He's going to go off. He's going to bully the player that I feel like I would be most scared of, but I think in Trayvon Diggs, if we're not talking about Micah Parsons. But I think AJ's going to have a big game in this one.
Jacob Caldera, by the way, said that Parsons will have 3 sacks.
One last thing, sorry, on AJ too. This is obviously, you know how you tempted.
You said nothing on the player I actually picked, by the way, in Devontae. So
you remember? Well, yes, I don't agree with the pick. I mean, I like Devontae.
It's my pick.
Okay, but you're wrong. I think you should be more afraid of AJ in this one, because here's the real kicker to all of this. I mean, like we talked about on the mixtape with why the Colts are going to lose. Sorry, the Colts are going to beat the Cowboys this year, just like the Broncos did last year.
I see what
you know
saying.
AJ Brown's going to have this big game after like the Eagles lost the trade.
So, again, kind of like what you're trying to say the Eagles are going to do. Like, that's a little bit of an inside joke, the Batman thing. It's shout out to the loyal listeners who understood these references the entire time. It's a bit of a joke that I initially said that the Titans won the AJ Brown trade, so to speak. More specifically, the Eagles lost. I have since apologized for that. So Brandon was disregarding all the new listeners and new watchers of the show who did not know that. So
I mean, if you're not a diehard, I don't care about you.
That's not the most unfair way to think.
We're here for the real fans.
Before we get your answer to the actual question, there was a comment. I'm looking for it here. Here we go. Rick Bobby says, we may hate each other's football teams, but we can at least all agree on loving Righteous Felon craft jerky. Head to righteousfelon.com. You can use code BTB20 for 20% off your orders until Sunday night, when the Cowboys, of course, beat the Philadelphia Eagles. But Brandon, your answer to Kyle's question: which player are you most afraid of on the opposing team? You cannot pick Micah Parsons.
Well, I like the Righteous Felon shout out, and you're right. People should use discount code BGN15 at Righteous.
Right, if they want 5% less of a discount until
they should use
Sunday
BGN15
night,
to support their favorite podcast.
What's your favorite flavor?
Bleeding Green Nation.
Mine's Nelson Mandela.
That's a good one. I really like the biltong. I've said that before. The Darth garlic is. But that's like that's the biltong, and then there's the jerky, which is a different thing. For the jerky, it's tough to pick, but I like a bourbon Franklin. I think it's the most unique flavor. It might not be my favorite flavor, but it's all right. So this is very maybe podcasty. It's not like it's like I can see Bill Simmons saying this. It's not my favorite flavor. It's the one I like the most. I can see him trying to make that distinction. Anyway, so Bourbon Franklin's really good. Who's my player? I will say, even though I think AJ Brown's going to win the matchup, I will say it's Trayvon Diggs. Like, who has the potential to kind of like, because he very much has the potential, and Jalen Hurts has thrown some pretty bad picks the last 2 weeks. Now it's only one in each game, but I think if someone's going to capitalize on a bad throw, it could be him.
By the way, Perry Peters asked if it was BTB20 for 20% off. It is. No space in between though. Just, like one continuous line. BTB20, BGN15, normally BTB15, or it will be normally after Sunday night. So it's great jerky. You can use that though, either of those codes all the time. Take turns, flip-flop. I think Trayvon's a really good answer. Shackle Benjamin, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Shackle says that Diggs had to pick 6 on him last season. Trayvon has never not had an interception in a game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's where I think this game, like, obviously this is about like who's going to win the game, but like there's a lot of narrative at stake, right? Like there are a lot of like these like cute little records and things like that. Like Dallas has generally owned the Eagles, right? Is that fair to say? I mean, there have been a handful of like momentary victories for the Eagles. There was the 2019 win in Philadelphia, which was, effectively for the division. But other than that, it's kind of been all Dallas. It's even in the Jalen Hurts era, right? Like lost to Andy Dalton in his first game against them, got destroyed by them last year on Monday Night Football. The game in Philadelphia obviously was really meaningless last year in Week 18. If Trayvon does it again, like all those things are perpetuated, I think. Like if Trayvon has a pick, if the Cowboys, have their way with the Eagles in any way, shape, or form, I think it feeds the idea that like this is the big brother in the division for the Eagles. And that's why like a different question is like who I've been asked this a few times this week, like who's under more pressure to win? And I do think it's the Eagles, because I think the Eagles are the team that has to kind of get the monkey off their back, so to speak. And I'll ask you this, because I was asked what I would say. So I'll just ask you outright. Who would you rather face off against, Dak or Cooper Rush? Because I think I'll explain my argument after you go ahead.
Like given the current circumstances, not like in a vacuum, obviously.
Yeah, like you're not like going against like peak, Cooper Rush, but like the circumstances would also be like, to your like Batman point, like Dak, putting on the cape, you know what I mean? And like, oh my gosh, like, you know what I mean? The like epic narrative that could potentially create.
I think Dak, from a standpoint of just, and I could be wrong about this. I don't know, the exact status of his injury, but I feel like he just might. I mean, clearly, if he's not going to play, he's not fully there yet. So if they're rushing him into playing, then yeah, give me that, because I think ball security could be an issue. He could be getting hit in the pocket, and maybe on plays where he would normally be able to like actually hold on to the ball and not fumble, might not be able to, because it's like this functionality might not be fully there. There's soreness or whatever. So I think there would be a lower floor if Dak starts, because there could be like kind of disaster potential, where I've seen enough from Cooper Rush where I think he gives them a bit of a higher floor with where he's at healthy right now.
By the way, we're doing this while the Commanders-Bears game is on. That was kind of the reason we timed it this way. So the Bears have the ball. 1st and 10. Justin Fields picked up 8 yards. Brandon, your advice before the show was bad. We'll just say that, but at least looking that way. So here's my take. I think if you're an Eagles fan, like if you allow yourself to explore like the deep, dark fears, it's obvious. I think it's worse if Cooper Rush beats you. I think that would be like, I would rather face Cooper Rush, if that makes sense. Because if Dak shows up and beats you, it is the like, oh man, this dude owns this. Like, as somebody who like roots for a team who has a dude who owns them, it sucks. Like, I hate Aaron Rodgers. Like, I don't care what the circumstances are. I don't care who's on Aaron Rodgers' team. I am definitely afraid of any team he is on, because he owns this team. And so I think if Dak were to come back, these are both playoff teams. We're both willing to admit that, right? Like, they're both probably playoff teams.
I mean,
in all likelihood, right?
How could I, especially in the weak NFC, how could you argue otherwise? How could you find 7 teams that aren't these teams?
So whichever team loses this game could win out until Christmas Eve. But the conversation would be nothing but like, it doesn't matter. You can't beat the Eagles. It doesn't matter. You can't beat the Cowboys. And if Dak were to like show up in first game back, on national television, Sunday Night Football in Philadelphia, beat the undefeated Eagles, the last undefeated team, like that would be an exhausting narrative to live through, I think, for an Eagles fan. Like, I think it would be much more preferable to lose even to Cooper Rush, as diminished as that sounds.
You just said that would be the most embarrassing thing, though, if you lose to Cooper Rush.
No. Like, that's I was working my thoughts out. It's a difficult point to verbalize, but I think losing to Cooper Rush would be more explainable. Like, I think you'd be able to be like, well, they've got some weird sports magic happening, right? Like, whatever. Especially if it's a similar formula to what we've seen over the last 4 weeks, right? Like, the defense just held Jalen Hurts, whatever, and Cooper just did enough. Versus if Dak showed up and dunked all over the Eagles, like that is the worst case scenario in my mind if you're an Eagles fan.
Shout out to Alex in the chat there saying this is great. I mean, you can put I can't do it. I don't have the power to put the comment on the board, but RJ is doing that right now. So there you go, Alex in the chat. This has to be every week. I don't know if we can do it every week. I mean, I would like to go live more. I will say that.
The problem, just to let everybody know, and we're always here to take your feedback on things. Brandon is on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon Gowton. I am on Twitter and Instagram at RJ Ochoa. So you can let us know your thoughts on anything or comment on the YouTube side of things.
Michael Kist NFL too, to bully him into funding.
Right, exactly.
In-person live podcast.
Exactly. But we generally record on Tuesdays at like 2 p.m. And so that's not exactly this sort of window where people are home.
Some people will make it work though. I mean, why not?
I'm just saying, like let's hear some people's feedback. What do they think? You know what I mean? Like I'm all ears for that. But look, we're always very forward about the situation. So always it's not a peek behind the curtain. There is no curtain on the NFC East Mixtape.
I did want to get back to your point about in terms of what you said about, I mean, I don't think it's like the likely thing, but in theory, yes, a team could win out from after they win this after the result of this game. And that's all the more reason this might sound obvious, like why this game is so important, such a big game, because like if you're the Eagles or the Cowboys, you can't just merely count on the other team tripping up at some point, where most seasons you could, because there's like, there's that tough game on their schedule.
Like the Packers are lurking or whatever.
Yeah. And so they're probably going to lose at some point. Like, no, like this is your chance now to make up ground. Because, if you're looking at it from an Eagles perspective, it's certainly before we knew the Cowboys were going to go on this run, it's like, okay, the Cowboys, well, we obviously all thought they're going to be bad, you included, but it's like, they're at even if they kind of have the best case scenario while Dak is out, they're going to drop at least one of these games, and they didn't. So that, creates all the more pressure to get this win, and not really, because this is thinking very far ahead, but not really necessarily render that next game useless on Christmas Eve, because, I think it's going to be tight still at that time. But certainly if you're the Eagles and if you keep rolling, you could make that game like a lot less important to win. You know what I mean? Like if they just keep winning, it's like, yeah, not ideal, but they could still win the 1 seed and lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, you get one in hand. Like the value is obvious. By the way, just to address the point, we've never done it live, so we have to like keep going back and forth with the comments. So first of all, Caleb Bland says, I like being able to interact. Caleb, we like that too. I Bleed Blue 365 says, do this as much as possible. Rick Bobby, the promoter of the Righteous Felon Craft Jerky, says, loving it. Michael Kist says, it's a remote world, baby. Let's do it. That's true. Kist also added to click like if you want more live mixtape. So
that's true.
Yeah. Actually, let's do this. If you want a live mixtape, we want you to tweet at Michael Kist the most awkward gift that you can find.
Wait, he's endorsing it though. Why are you trying to bully him further?
No, because I want to remind him continually. You know what I mean?
I think we should hit a benchmark. I think we need a certain amount of likes on like a video or subscribers, because we want subscribers to the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel, by the way. If you want to,
that's right. We've tagged it in the description here.
There you go.
The functionality of this only allows for us to go live on one channel. No offense to Bleeding Green Nation, but the Blog and the Boys channel has far more subscribers, which is an incentive if you're a BGN listener to go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We can start doing some live shows over there. But it is tagged in the description, so you can very easily click there and subscribe. I know that it messes with your algorithm if you're a Cowboys or Eagles fan to subscribe to one or the other, but hey, we're all in this together. Let's help each other out. So Austin says, much respect to Michael Kiss. I'm fine with that. Yeah, I don't have a problem giving Kiss any sort of props. Okay, what direction do you want to take us into next to?
Up. It's the only direction you go, RJ.
Up. Okay. Well, what does that look like? What is
I don't know. You're the host of the show. Don't make me do the host work.
Okay, so we're gonna write something. You at BGN, me at BTB. You love to do this every single week at Bleeding Green Nation. 3 reasons why the opposing team will lose, and what you effectively do is, you ask somebody.
Yeah, I have to get those to you, by the way.
Right. You're we're gonna effectively tell each other the weaknesses of our team. I want to go the other way, like that. So let's make our jobs a little bit easier after we're done with this. What are 3 reasons why you think the Cowboys will lose? And then I'll do the same. And we would love to hear people's comments. So 3 reasons why, or any reason why you think either one of these teams is going to lose on Sunday night.
I think it's better if I do 3 reasons why I feel like the Eagles will win. Is that okay?
No.
Well, I don't know the Cowboys as well as you do in terms of I don't know.
It's all about your perception. That's the whole point of the mixtape, is like getting, the perception of the enemy, so to speak. We're across enemy lines.
I mean, Cooper Rush, obviously number 1. I think specifically his turnover luck coming to an end. I haven't seen enough of, I haven't seen every single one of his throws to know how many near picks. Has near picks been an issue for him at all?
He had 2 near picks against the Commanders that penalties wiped out.
Right.
So yeah.
And he only has 1.
Sorry, he had 2 fumbles against the Rams, one of which he recovered and one of which Tyler Smith recovered. Okay,
see, yeah, like that's he only has 1 so far in his games this far, and I just feel like that's really not going to hold up, especially against an opportunistic Eagles team, a team that has been good at forcing turnovers. And obviously, some of that is luck and variance or whatever, but some of it is that they have talented players who I think can attack the ball and get to the Cowboys. Why don't we bat it back and forth? I don't think it's fun if I just say all 3 at once. So why don't you give me your top reason?
I think and I'm going to piggyback off of the comment here. I believe Blue 365 says, how is the health of the Philly O-line? So this is it fair to say the weakest version of themselves this season? Not that they're weak by any means, but maybe the least at full strength.
Going into a game for sure. Obviously against the Cardinals, they were literally without Mailata, Dillard, and Dickerson and Kelsey at one point.
Right. So what was the situation with Kelsey today? Left practice for like a moment or whatever? Like what?
I mean, he's so tough that he's going to play. To me, it's a question of like how long can he stay into the game? How much will he be like affected in terms of his movement and everything? He's going to start. Like, I mean, I would put like he has the starting streak. He's really tough. He's not going to start.
Well, that would be my answer. Is like it's the weakest it's been on paper entering a game, and you're heading up against one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So you would fall victim to what the Rams fell victim. I mean, everybody has fallen victim to. And what's more is, I mean, it doesn't take a lot. I mean, that's a simple way of putting it. But the Cowboys are generating the most pressures with 4 rushers. That they're not having to blitz, and like that. Changes things. You can have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert all you want, but if 7 dudes are dropping back, life is difficult for any quarterback.
My next reason would be that the Cowboys have receivers. I'm taking this from a Cowboys perspective. The Cowboys have, I mean, it's really an Eagles thing, but it's like the Eagles have cornerbacks now who can actually cover Cowboys wide receivers.
Which hasn't been the case in this.
Yeah, so I mean, like, when was the last time you went into an Eagles-Cowboys matchup especially as a Cowboys perspective, like afraid or like not laughing at what the Eagles have at cornerback. Like, what is the best possible cornerback duo the Eagles have had against the Cowboys in a long time? You have to probably go pretty far back to find one that's inspiring as Darius Slay and James Bradbury. And it looks like, we don't know for sure, but Avonte Maddox has been limited in practice this week. It looks like he'll be returning in the slot. That's easily the best group of cornerbacks the Eagles have had in some time to go up against the Cowboys receivers. A Cowboys receiving core, which, by the way, has usually had a receiver that has hurt the Eagles, and he's no longer there in Amari Cooper.
Yeah, very one of Amari was a part of one of our like initial troll jobs at each other a long time ago. Yeah, good times. But anyway, I think that's a really good like piece of perspective, because you're right, like it's generally been like who's in the secondary, like, you know, like, and it's been a combination of like Dallas having elite playmaking wide receivers, like even predating Amari, like Des caught 3 touchdowns there in what I would say was the last juicy, you know, Cowboys game in Philadelphia. We talk about that all the time, how there have been lack of them. So yeah, I mean, it's that's kind of been a one-way thing. But so I'm going to piggyback off you, because I think that's a really good answer for your second. My second, if I was coming from an Eagles perspective, would be the presence of Trayvon Diggs. And I know that's why you are somewhat afraid of him. Like I'm not trying to, you know, be like Trayvon's better than Darius Slay or whatever, but he's the best corner in this game, right? Like that's objectively fair. And I'm not sliding Darius Slay by any stretch. And not only is he very good, but he's a difference maker. Like he can swing a game. Like you talk about, like, and that's where these teams are so fascinating and so interesting, and where all the change has been fun, is the Cowboys haven't had a dude like that. I can't tell you the last time the Cowboys had a dude who had that power, who had that switch, who could flip that, who could impact the game that way in the secondary, certainly at the corner position. They've had moments where they flirted with it. They have players who we've tried to believe in and tried to sort of hype up and be at that level. But Trayvon is different. I mean, again, the fact that he has a running streak against every NFC East team of having interceptions in games against them, that's just, some of that's luck and some of that's the ball bouncing his way, but a lot of it is skill. And I mean, I really am, and that would be my answer. By the way, Eagles Fly 33 said that I was drunk. I'm not. I have a Perrier carbonated water going on right here.
Well, I think that's an expression, not so literal, but okay.
Well, I'm answering it in a literal sense.
It wasn't a question. How are you answering it? I have 2 things that I want to say. So I'm really breaking. I can't count here. But Jordan Davis, I think that could be a problem for the Cowboys. Obviously, they want to run the ball. They want to get into like second and manageable, third and manageable with Cooper Rush. They do not want to get set behind the sticks. I think I saw a stat this week about how the Cowboys like run the most on first down. And I think that is something the Eagles could be equipped to handle, considering Jordan Davis is coming off of his best game. And you really see it with him. Like I think it sometimes gets overstated, certain players, about how much impact they can have beyond the box score. But you can literally watch Jordan Davis highlights where like he's not getting the tackle necessarily, but he's just shoving the center like into the backfield, and then the play is getting blown up by someone else. So definitely think that could be an issue. And then the other thing there is Cowboys have not played a mobile quarterback this year outside of Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones
had success.
Went 9 for 79, long of 17 against this Cowboys defense. So Jalen Hurts has not really had that big rushing game kind of since week 1. At least unless I'm misremembering. So that could be a factor here.
On that subject, a couple of comments here. Let's see here. I lost them now. This is a different thing for us. I believe Blue 365, by the way, says the Cowboys run defense is bad. Yeah, the Rams, the only team who didn't know that. Shout out to the genius Sean McVay, of course. So Alex says BLG talk/explain about Hurts being good against pressure but bad against the blitz. That's how the Cowboys play. Isn't this an advantage? And just to add to that point, Johnny Boy adds, ironically, it could be Jalen's mobility that would force him into an error. So this is your thing. Take it away.
Yeah, so that's that was a big talking point going into the Cardinals matchup. And then we saw the Cardinals blitz the Eagles all game long. And it was really annoying because from a standpoint, not annoying that the Cardinals were doing that. It was annoying because like good for them, but annoying from the standpoint that the Eagles didn't have a better counter other than to just run screenplays the whole time. And it wasn't like it was totally ineffective. Yeah, they only scored 20 points, but they also made like 9 possessions. So that number looks a little better, I think, than it typically would. I think the thing with Hurts, one of my biggest issues with him has been, even like something I saw in training camp this year that would annoy me, just sometimes holds on to the ball too long, man. It's like, get it to the hot route. Like, just get rid of it. Go. Like, boom, see it, throw it, boom. Not hold onto the ball. You can't always hold it. And I think that's kind of really a big issue there, is not seeing it quick enough, just holding too much and not getting to that hot route. The QB School, at the QB School, I believe, on Twitter, did a really good job of breaking that down today on one of their clips. And I was watching that and I'm like, yep, this is what I've been saying / thinking. So that is definitely a concern. If you can get him to hold on to the ball, it's not about necessarily, that's the thing with Hurts. I think I've said this to you before, and let me say it to Cowboys fans listening who have not maybe heard me say it before. It's not so much you're like, as an Eagles fan, you're worried about him making this killer turnovers like Carson Wentz, or a much more extreme level, Nathan Peterman. He's not going to struggle in that kind of way. He's going to kind of struggle in, there's going to be windows and there's going to be plays to be had, but he's holding to the ball too long and there's opportunity costs and he left plays on the field, and that kind of could accumulate throughout the game. It's like, okay, maybe he missed a 20-yard throw here. It's not the end of the world, but maybe he misses like 4 20-yard throws over the course of the game in high leverage spots, and that's a big deal.
I think all of that is really well explained. So shout out to you. We don't do award. Actually, we didn't do this week. The most NFC East and whatever it was called. We didn't. That might not.
Really bad award you came up with. Yes, yeah. We didn't do that. Oh, okay.
That might not be a thing. The Bears are driving, by the way. What do you make of the helmets? This has been a big talking point.
I'm not watching the game. I don't have the game on.
But you've seen the helmets, I'm sure. The orange.
What are
helmets.
I don't know what the helmets.
They're orange. The colors are inverted. The helmet itself is orange and the C is navy. So like they sort of like inverted the helmet.
I'm looking this up on the Bears Twitter account. Oh, wow.
It's stupid.
No.
I know.
No. Yeah. The Bears background. Sorry to shout out the Bears. But like the Bears Twitter account right now, the helmet is orange and the background of their picture is orange. Why? Ooh. Like why? It's dumb. Make it black, or like make it contrast. There's no
if
contrast.
It was black, it would be like super Halloween. Real excellent says too much orange looks Nickelodeon-ish. I agree with that.
They look like the Bengals
or the Browns. My big problem is the logo. This is no longer the Bears logo. The Bears logo is the orange C. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that's what I hate about I hate the Colts for a lot of reasons, but I hate when they have the white horseshoe because that's not their logo. It's a blue horseshoe. You know what I'm saying? So, whatever. But anyway, Michael Kiss notes 5.5 yards per attempt on 14 screens or screen adjacent plays. Michael
Kiss more like also actual says informative than what I said.
Right. Michael Kiss said that this is our good buddy Rob Stats Guerrera thinks that peanut butter is orange. So I guess that he thinks it's the same color as these Bears uniforms. That is
very in denial.
I'll let you tell everybody who this is.
Shout out to my dad weighing in.
Yeah, and said happy birthday month to us both. Look at that.
That's true. Libra's season over here.
That's right.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you, Mr. Gowton. Hope you're having a great week. Anyway, okay. Next sort of line of thought. What's the biggest thing? It's Hurts. It's Parsons. It's Dak, sort of not Dak. Like, what are we surprised that isn't a big thing? I actually just thought of this question. I really like it. So what are we? I'll ask you from a Cowboys angle, and you can ask me from an Eagles angle. What are you surprised isn't a big Cowboys story heading into a game against the Eagles? Because I have what I think the answer.
Yeah, why don't you go first? Because I need time to think about this.
I think the answer should be CeeDee Lamb. Like, there's a lot of like talk about CeeDee. He's had some drops. He's had some great moments, whatever. You could argue he's like relative to context and relative to expectation, but the most disappointing player on the team this year. But you talked about it, right? Like, what's been the thing? If you're an Eagles fan, like, oh, who's the Cowboys receiver that's going to like destroy us like the whole game or whatever? And, it's supposed to be CeeDee Lamb. Like, he's supposed to be that guy. Maybe it is on Sunday night. Maybe it's Michael Gallup. Maybe Noah Brown finds a way. Who knows? But like, it's surprising how of the like cast of characters that we're rolling through, if this was like an old school Survivor intro, you know what I mean, where they had the people like mid action sequence, like CeeDee would be like the 6th or 7th player listed, and I wouldn't have thought that. You know what I mean? Like he's supposed to be like one of the very, very first ones.
So I don't know if this answers your question, but it's something I've been thinking about and something I've seen some Eagles fans discuss too. Like, is the Eagles defense not getting enough credit? And I say this coming off a game that I thought was kind of frustrating, but I think everyone is like, Cowboys, they have like this amazing defense. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the Cowboys defense. They are 3rd in offensive points per game. They're 6th in DVOA. Guess your ranks just ahead of the Cowboys in DVOA in defense. It's the Eagles at 5. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not to say that, the Eagles have this elite defense and I feel like unequivocal confidence in them. But like, I think if we're just saying the Cowboys defense is awesome and we're acting like the Eagles defense is just like whatever, chop liver, then that's probably not accurate.
I'm not trying to cater to the Eagles fans, but I feel like the same phenomenon happened with the offensive line for a long time because it was always like Cowboys offensive line, like the Eagles offensive line has had a longer run. For that, you can argue certainly which was better at different points in time, but like that does kind of tend to happen just because of the like polarizing nature between the two teams. Is like when one is really good at something, the other doesn't get any love for being even kind of good at that particular thing. It's a rivalry sort of thing. But yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think Devontae Smith. I would have thought he would have been a bigger deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like second year, first round pick, like, Heisman Trophy winner. Like he is kind of like not an afterthought. I don't mean he is. He's obviously had a blow up game and things like that. But like, I just would have thought like he would have been a little bit more like in the mix. And I get that the Eagles are dominating. And we've talked about this before, how like 1 week it's going to be like it was the Miles Sanders week. It was the AJ Brown week. Devontae had his week. Dallas Goedert week's coming or whatever. But like, I'm just surprised that Devontae isn't getting a little bit more pop.
Yeah, I mean, he did get pretty involved last week against the Cardinals, all those screens, and it's kind of tough to watch at some points because he was just getting like lit up on them. And he's fine; he's a tough guy. Like he's slighter, so it's going to look bad, but like doesn't really impact him at all. One last thing I wanted to say on the defense point, the Eagles defense. One of the things I do believe in when it comes to Jonathan Gannon is his ability against lesser quarterbacks, like quarterbacks who are not obviously good, backups, even if you want to say specifically. Like last year, shut them down throughout his Eagles time with the Eagles. He's always shut down like the backup quarterbacks, which you would hope your defensive coordinator could do. You don't get a gold star for that.
Seriously, what a low bar.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, sometimes there are teams that absolutely get lit up by how do we get lit up by this scrub guy? Like sometimes teams ask themselves that, and that has not been an issue with the Eagles.
I mean, how long has Jonathan Gannon been the defensive coordinator?
Since the beginning of last year, 2020.
Right. Okay. So it wasn't Jonathan Gannon who got lit up by Andy Dalton in 2020. That was a backup quarterback.
That was still, yeah.
I know. I'm just.
By the way, about that game, I wanted to bring this up earlier when you mentioned that game. Deshaun Jackson scored a touchdown on the first play of that game, I believe. It was the only snap he played in the entire. He had one snap, 75-yard touchdown, got hurt, never played for the Eagles again.
He also, it wasn't the exact same thing, but a similar sort of thing. He had a long touch. I don't know how long it was off the top of my head, but he had a long touchdown on Thanksgiving last year against the Cowboys and the Raiders. And then like again, basically it just kind of like fizzled out and really never did anything again.
Was that on the where did I call that at? Was it on the mixtape? I guess it was on the mixtape. I called that. I'm like, RJ, Deshaun's gonna have this big play, and then he's just gonna be invisible the rest of the game. And then
you did call that. So okay, good times. We do a lot of shows together. That's why people should make sure to subscribe to Blog on the Boys, Bleeding Green Nation. Subscribe to everything. Subscribe to the SB Nation NFL show. You can hear me there twice a week, but you can hear BLG, Rob Stetzger, and myself every Friday. We do stream that live every Friday, by the way, generally speaking. Steven Serta does a fantastic job producing that show. By the way, Austin notes this. I know you're not watching BLG. Justin Fields threw an interception in the red zone. So
this says Commanders. Commander.
Yeah, they like picked it off. It was a batted ball, but he like threw it into like 4 defensive linemen. So
I'm shocked.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't exactly not his fault. Is the way I'll put this. So I want to like pivot into a different question, kind of a piggyback off of your like 3 reasons, why your team will lose thing, which again will be coming to our sites over the coming days. Mm-hmm. But you said Jonathan Gannon. I know he has been the subject of discussion when it comes to Eagles fans and success of the team and things like that. So my question is, who will be responsible for losing the game? Right? Like people say, like, what's the Monday morning headline going to be? Like, who's the face of criticism for the Eagles if they lose on Sunday night? Like, who will it be in all likelihood?
I see. Well, I mean, I see one of 2 things happening. I think it's either the special teams issues kind of finally end up being this like really big deal.
Oh man, what if Kevontae Turpin has his first kickoff return touchdown?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It'd be so awesome. It'd be hilarious. But
it'd be awesome. You want to get into Devontae or what's his name? Kevontae
Turpin. Yeah.
So to get into his background,
him scoring a touchdown would be awesome,
right?
In a football sense,
right? I think the special teams issues are something to watch for. If it's not that, I think it's Jalen Hurts. I mean, this is John Stolnis wrote about this for us at Bleeding Green Nation earlier this week, and I think it's very true. And when he sent me the draft of that article and let me know it was up so I could look at it to edit it, I was like, John, I'm glad you wrote this because yes, very much so. This is time for Jalen Hurts to put his stamp on this rivalry, really, because you mentioned it earlier, the bad game, and I can't all right, whatever. The bad game at the end of 2020, the team was in disarray. They had like a lot of injuries. Doug Peterson, was a lame duck head coach at the time. At least, And in reality, that's what he ended up being. Things were terrible. Last year, they should have put up a better effort, obviously, than they did when they got absolutely destroyed. Now, of course, that was before they kind of found their identity, and Sirianni didn't know what he was doing at the time, and a lot of things have changed since then. But that's my point. Things have to look a lot different than they did in that game last year. And it's nice that there actually is a meaningful Eagles-Cowboys game. Finally, this feels like the first one in way too long.
In Philly, because there have been a lot of meaningful ones in Dallas.
But like to this degree, especially too. Well, even though I say that, it's of course, Dak isn't going to play probably. So like there's that angle. Naturally, we can't get like the full throttle matchup that we all would like to see. But I will say it's on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has to have a big game, and not just like an okay game. Like he has to be like the reason they win this game. I feel like.
I thought about like unearthing this take on Twitter, but it just would have been a bad idea. Because it needs some context. I don't think this is true, but like a loss in this game, especially with like a kind of a performance that would lend itself to what you're talking about, I think it's mid-October. I understand that, but it loses Jalen Hurts MVP. Like this is the kind of loss that people be like, man, but he lost to Cooper Rush. Like assuming that, you know what I mean? Like that's an unfair characterization.
Sunday Night Football, yeah,
right. But that would be like a thing that people wouldn't forget. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, dude, you couldn't even outdo like Cooper Rush, but you know what I mean? Like it would be a thing. So you're right. Like Jalen Hurts, like, dude, it's never going to be easier for you if Cooper Rush plays, right? Like, and I'm not saying this is an easy matchup. It's a very difficult one for him specifically because of the Cowboys defense. But like, you are generally speaking in the future going to have a much more capable quarterback on the other side of the field that you're going to have to go shot for shot with, that's going to be able to outduel you more successfully than Cooper Rush is going to be able to. So like, if it can't happen now, when will it happen for Jalen Hurts? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It needs to have a big game here, and maybe it doesn't necessarily need to be with his arm if he's taking it off on the ground and just killing the Cowboys that way. But like, has to get it done. Has to get it done. Has to lead to Eagle. Has to come up big. I want to ask you, by the way, before I hear your side of this question. What do you feel? How do you feel about DeMarcus Lawrence's comments about Jalen Hurts?
So the question, actually, this is a good answer. The question that I asked was, who will be responsible for losing the game? And I liked this answer from Johnny Boy Aaron, says the We Want Dallas banner. I want to get your thoughts on that in a minute. But Alex mentioned on the other side of that, DeMarcus Lawrence running his mouth. I know you wrote about this because you can't help yourself. I wouldn't say that DeMarcus Lawrence ran his mouth today. I would say that the Cowboys are really embracing the like, we're the underdog, we're disrespected. That storyline very well. Obviously, that worked out with the Eagles in 2017. I mean, and the Cowboys are 6.5-point underdogs, and you know what I mean. Like, I think they're sort of channeling all of that. So I don't like have a problem with it. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, he was the first person to reference McCarthy's underdog line a week ago after the Cowboys beat the Rams. Like, he's the vocal leader of that side of the ball. Obviously, Micah Parsons is involved in that as well. So I think the We Want Dallas banner is a bigger deal. Although that was like a pure fan thing that had nothing.
One fan decided to do this versus an actual Cowboys player. I think
this is more mild than even like Kamu Grugier-Hill. What he said 4 years ago. I think this is up there with what Jason Kelce said. Like on his his podcast or whatever. Or I don't know if he said it on WIP, wherever it was, about like the different types of fans. But like I would argue that what Kelce said is more flagrant actually than what DeMarcus Lawrence said.
You were saying about the Yankees Lakers thing. Is that what you're referring to with Kelce?
Yeah, Jason Kelce thinks that the way a lot of Eagles fans think that like, only people born within like a 5-mile radius of the Eagles stadium are allowed to like the team, and everybody else is stupid. So basically, Jason Kelce
I think that's a mischaracterization.
Jason Kelce thinks it's dumb if you're an Eagles fan that doesn't live in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania.
Definitely not true. I do think. So let's get into, because we have a comment here about the Jason Peters thing that you can highlight too. But on the DeMarcus Lawrence thing, I will say it's noteworthy. It's worth noting that was said, because typically a lot of players, when they're asked about the other team, gas them up. Not to say they have to, but that's just standard protocol. You're like, wow, it and it kind of it makes sense, because if you're that team, you want to gas up the team you're playing, because then if you do beat them, then you look great. You're like, yeah, we just we gave all this team a lot of credit, and now we beat them, so we're pretty good. So I do think it's worth noting. I do think it's not impossible that the Eagles will use it as some kind of bulletin board material, even if you think it's thin. And if the Eagles do end up winning, I mean, that's going to be thrown back in his face. So I think it's good vibes for the Eagles side, because it's like, honestly, when I saw those comments, that made me even a little bit more confident in the Eagles. I'm like, okay,
I have a question.
They're talking there, and I think it's better for them if they just stay completely quiet.
I have a question that I haven't asked anybody this week, so I didn't mean to save it, but I wound up saving it. What do you think it says that Nick Sirianni is not wearing a Beat Dallas shirt? I know, because let's flesh it out, right?
I'm surprised no one asked him about that this week.
Well, I would blame you. You have a right to ask.
I'm not able to go always at all times.
Well, whatever. Anyway,
a lot of things going on here.
Right. Okay. So to like set the stage for the line of thought. Last year, Cowboys Eagles week 3 Monday Night Football. He wears the Beat Dallas shirt, and I know it's a rivalry, it's a whatever stupid story. I know you guys talk about it every year because rent free and all that stuff. All right, doesn't do it for the week 18 matchup. I would imagine partly because they got destroyed when he did do it, and partly because it was a meaningless game. Right, like we both knew that. So like it had no. Yeah. So this is the first opportunity of significance to do it since he did it, but he didn't. Well, I mean, that says
not yet.
Little bit of cowardice. In my mind. Like
in theory, he could do it on Friday morning. That's his final press conference of the week. But I think if he's going to wear it, I think he's going to wear it after the game.
I know that would be even more soft in my mind. Like I actually look, as somebody whose job it is to create content around the Dallas Cowboys, respect. Thank you, Nick Sirianni, and your stupid highlighter on your visor. However, I think it's fine. I thought it was fine. Michael Kiss says he learned his lesson about pandering. He is a huge panderer when it comes to his articles of clothing. He wears, what was it, a Jalen shirt. He's always wearing Sixers garb.
He wears like a Kenny Gainwell shirt.
Has he worn any Philly stuff? Like
yeah, he had a Phillies shirt on last Friday. Yeah.
All right, Nick. Well, maybe think an original thought, Nick. That's all I'm saying. But you know what? He's been hanging out with Jason Kelce, right? Like, you got to be born into it. I bet you Jason Kelce hates Nick Sirianni. He wasn't born into this. Where was Jason Kelce born? All right, like where's he? Anyway, whatever. I think it's really soft that he has not worn that shirt, and to do it afterwards would be a huge loser energy move. I mean, it really would. But why do you think he hasn't done it? That's my question to you. Why do you think he hasn't done it yet this week? Because he did it like on Wednesday last year for week 3.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, you have to avoid the vibe. You wore that shirt last time before a really bad loss. You can't bring it back right now. The vibes would be bad. It's a bad vibe shirt.
Something bad happened with the Commanders, by the way. But you don't think it's soft in any way, shape, or form? You don't think it looks like, well, you did it before last year's game. Why don't you want to do it this year? You're 6.5 point favorites, Nick.
What do you think the reaction in Philly would be to him wearing that shirt?
I think it would be epic. I think if you're an Eagles fan,
you're wrong. People would be mad.
Like, hell yeah, we're 6.5 point favorites. They got Cooper Rush. Let's crush them.
Fans would be mad. You think why would he want to anger fans?
No, this goes back to like how you wouldn't even pick the Eagles to cover any of their spreads, which they did until you finally did.
Did I take him to win the game?
If you're supposed to,
did I take him to win the game?
That's couching.
Did I take him to win the game?
But if you really believe in this team,
what matters more, spread or the game?
Super Bowl contender, blah, 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 then like double down on it. Don't be afraid. Don't have one foot in and one foot out. This is the NFL, not the hokey pokey. I mean,
I mean, I did predict them to lose the Vikings game. Of course, that was before like Jalen Hurts looked evolved as a passer. I did not believe in this week 1 performance where he really only ran it. So ever since I've seen Jalen Hurts play well, I've had confidence in them. That's a big factor to me. That was always the biggest question. So I think you're making too much of this.
I know. I mean, if we're gonna make a mountain out of DeMarcus Lawrence's
really good
molehill.
comment here by the real excellent. Why don't you wear the victory polo shirt before the game?
Because it's a victory polo. Nick set the precedent.
You're confident. Why not you wear it before?
No, Nick's the one who set the precedent. And in fact, he didn't wear a shirt that said we did beat Dallas. It's a shirt with an objective. Is the
Your
objective
shirt doesn't
not the
say
same?
we beat the opponent. It's a polo with the Cowboys.
Yeah,
logo
it's a polo that's emblematic of a huge point in disposition. But again, like, is the objective not the same to beat Dallas?
No, this is a bad
Jason Kelce went on about that on his podcast. Oh, every time when you join the Eagles, everybody tells you welcome to the town. We don't care about anything you do as long as you beat the Cowboys. If it's really that big of a deal, if it's really this historical thing, then own it.
All right.
Michael Cernock says, I love you both guys. I love you both guys. Keep the NFC East mixtape being awesome. Hey.
Nice picture there, Michael. Got a nice.
Yeah, this is a really good photo of Michael Cernock. I hope I'm pronouncing Cernock correctly. Wow. By the way, Kist said that you would light Nick Sirianni up if he did wear a Beat Dallas shirt. I think if he wore it and they lost, people would call for him to be fired. Like, they would be like, this dude doesn't know what to do. He just stoking the flame, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Austin Lee notes that Khalil Herbert is running wild. The Bears are in, I think it's second, it might be first and goal now, or second and goal. There's a flag, but of course there's a flag. Okay, so the question that we deviated from this is who will be responsible for losing the game? Should I answer?
Yeah. I can't believe we got back to that. What a long interlude.
Yeah.
I forgot we were talking about that.
I mean, Cooper Rush is such a low-hanging fruit. By the way, Matthew says that Michael Kist is a coward. Look at that. I mean, there's a lot of thoughts happening here.
But okay, so let's think of another answer. But in the meantime, I want you to tell me how Cooper, because he hasn't done it this far. How would it be different this time?
This sounds stupid, but because of I'm just rewording things, but like it would be because he didn't win the game, right? Like the Cowboys had one offensive touchdown last week, and it was a 57-yard run by Tony Pollard. You know what I mean? Like, you got to move the ball. Their first offensive possession, they started at the Rams' 20-yard line. They traveled 5 yards in 4 plays before kicking a field goal. Like, it's that. I mean, the opportunities.
What does it look like? Is it him turning the ball over? Is it the offense just like 3 and outs? Like, what is it? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's 3 and out, 4 plays, maybe 1 first down, whatever, and just fizzling out over and over and over again. I'm going to steal Johnny Boy's our answer here says CD will cost us the game with drops. That would be it. Okay. You could argue the Cowboys should have lost to the Giants on Monday Night Football. CD Lamb was kind of a big reason why. And then he did have the moment of redemption. He had a huge drop last week. So did Michael Gallup, who did have redemption as well. You could see that. Like, I could see that narrative. Like, there have been a lot of people like, take 88 away from him. Like that's a big thing. The real excellent says, I'm going to put Dallas losing on a critical wide receiver drop, Gallup or CD. So we're kind of all in agreement here. By the way, Austin says, glad to be a part of the first live mixtape. Ooh, a question inspired by the boss man, Michael Kiss, says, which kicker is more likely to lose it? Brett Maher has effectively been perfect. He's had misses, but they've all kind of been legitimately explainable. He had a miss in New York at the end of the first half, and the Cowboys had that rushed sequence, no pun intended. He had an extra point blocked. Last week, he had an extra point where there was some miscommunication on the snap, and it just hit his holder in the head. So he's been fairly reliable. But about Dicker the kicker? I know that's a fun, big old thing.
I mean, how could you not trust Dicker the kicker with your life? The reigning NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. I don't even know it's going to be him though, because Jake Elliott.
It's like the NFL world has to award an Eagle a Player of the Week in some way, shape, or form.
This has happened 5 times for 5 weeks so far, and Jalen Hurts won NFC Offensive Player of the Month, so 6 awards in total there. But yeah, I mean, Jake Elliott might be back because he was limited in practice today. He was seen kicking, but I don't know. I mean, I would say him. From a standpoint of if he's not fully healthy, I mean, he could, blow it. But I'm really not worried, knock on wood, about kicker here. Because Cameron Dicker looked good, and if Jake Elliott's healthy, then I trust him.
By the way, apparently Justin Fields had a bad miss on 4th and goal at the 1. I think I might not be interpreting Twitter correctly, but I think all of the
Austin Lee said that in the comments here too.
Yeah. But all of the tweets are like this is Colts Broncos part 2. I mean,
what a shocker! It's almost like everyone said that.
Oh, I'm now seeing a screen grab of the miss. It was an intended pass for, I can't quite tell who this is. Yeah, it's like really this tight end is like wide open. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Wow, that's one of your takes that has aged very well. Brandon was never in on Justin Fields.
It was a very lonely take too, by the way. A lot of people were like, unanimously just deciding that Justin Fields was an amazing pick by the Bears. Yeah.
Well, Carson Wentz is about to take over at his own 1-yard line, so that's totally. I'm
sure he will not do anything bad or wrong.
Closing thoughts. Close as we wrap up here. This is a first live mixtape again. Your thoughts, comments, questions, points of what are hopefully constructive criticism are all welcome for ourselves and the aforementioned Michael Kiss, the sort of honorary 3rd member of the mixtape. Actually, Rachel Prevet, the actual 3rd member. Kiss is the honorary 4th member at this point. But closing thoughts. Where do you want to go?
Does that make the listeners the honorary 5th member?
Ooh,
like the 12s in Seattle. Do your little Russell thing.
Wow.
You know what's significant about that number, 5th?
That's how many Super Bowls the Cowboys have.
That's right, baby. We have Donovan McNabb here live on the show. And I got this back in 2004, the year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl.
They lost. There's another, you can say they lost. That's the way that is described.
1 year later, against the same team they lost to in that Super Bowl.
Did you know Terrell Owens played on a broken leg?
I did. Okay. I made 2 big mistakes that season. First mistake,
as a child, right?
was getting wings during the game. Bad mistake. It's bad vibes to eat wings during a game where the Eagles
you like
are
vividly
playing.
remember this, like the negative experience of the wings.
I don't remember where we got the wings from, but I remember getting the wings, and then in hindsight, I was like, "Why did I eat wings?" I'm rooting for the Eagles, a team with wing, like a bird, like
some would argue that
wings.
that's a sign of solidarity. Although I get the but
you're eating
cannibal
it,
side of it.
no, it was bad vibes, so I can't do that. And the other thing I did, the mistake I made, was I asked Donovan here after getting this little bobblehead. And another reason I try to put some props on the show, RJ, so people have to watch on YouTube.
We know.
And you like it, and the listeners like it. I asked Donovan here, who has never been wrong when I've asked him questions. I asked them, will they go to the Super Bowl that year? And he was right, but I did not ask him, will they win the Super Bowl? So, Donovan, will the Eagles beat the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night at the Link? Wow, he's saying yes. There you
Is he wearing the black jersey?
Yeah, he's wearing the black jersey.
Did they even wear those in 2004?
Yeah, they've been around for a bit now.
Do you feel like the black jerseys are kind of fraudulent? Like they're not an actual, like black isn't a part of the Eagles color scheme. So
yeah, I heard. What was it? Who said that? Was that Pete on the?
I think it was Pete. Yeah,
on Monday Football Monday. I mean, that's not true though. Like, look at their logo. I mean, there's black.
I mean, the font is black, but that's kind of cheating.
But like look at in the Eagles logo. Tell me there's not black in the Eagles logo.
Do you know that there's an E in the Eagles logo?
I'm the one.
Yes,
I wrote
by the way,
about this and everyone stole that. Terrible.
Yeah. Doug Gowton,
my dad again.
Sixth member of the mixtape says, love the live NFC mixtape. Hope you.
Dad, you called it the NFC mixtape.
Yeah, that's a common error.
Dad, get out of here. You ruined it. No,
a lot of people tend to
mom.
do that.
I know mom's watching too. Dad's commenting, but mom is also watching, I'm sure.
Wow. Respect to the guy.
All right. So my prediction, Eagles win. They're going to win by a score of, let's see here.
By the way, we will predict every non-Thursday night football game on the Friday version of the SB Nation NFL show. So go subscribe over there.
Eagles win. They move to 6-0 entering the bye. They win by a score of 24-17.
That's a really chalk score. Like, that's stupid. Like, it won't be that, 3 touchdowns and 1 field goal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
24-17, baby.
That's such a cartoon. Score. Okay, that's like the score in like movies. By the way, Matthew Morin says this was great. I don't know what's happening. That's a really adorable photo in Matthew's photo. Here. Nice. Okay. I mean, I didn't come this far. We didn't do this like extra mixtape for me to not pick the Cowboys, right? I'm not gonna not do that. By the way, we have locks of the week that we do on the SB Nation NFL show every week. You've had the Cowboys as your lock of the week.
I mean, way to spoil the show, but yes.
No, like in the past. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, sorry.
Like I didn't know. I didn't know.
I just spoiled the show.
I didn't look at the doc. Did you lock them for this week?
Eagles are the lock. Eagles are. So that's a little look ahead. By the way, it's killing me that we're not calling it the look ahead.
I know it's difficult.
Anyway,
and tweet at Michael Kist NFL. Let him know. But
yeah.
Anyway,
also, and stats too. It's at Stats on Fire. He also supports not calling the show a name, even though we have Monday Football Monday, and then it's just 2 other shows that don't have names. Anyway, what was the question? Yes, I did. The Eagles are my lock of the week this week. I think
so I was misinterpreting that. I thought you were locking the Cowboys from a spread perspective.
I wouldn't be allowed to do that because no repeat picks.
Well, you did that last week. You picked the Cowboys for. Yes, you did.
Nope. I picked.
You locked the Cowboys against the Giants, and then last week against the Rams.
Yeah. No, you can't go back to back.
Again, a lot of people are here and saying how much they love this. Just for the record, Brandon has locked the Cowboys twice this year, and he has refused to.
And was I right on those?
He has refused to take the Eagles in all games except for last week.
And I was right on those.
Concerned.
So and I'm going to be right.
Super confident Eagles perspective over here.
I was right about the Cowboys lock, so I'm going to be right about the Eagles lock.
This game is so gross. I feel so bad for Bears fans. I don't feel bad for Commanders.
I'm glad you clarified that for.
Oh yeah, no, this game is awesome.
Yes, because you're looking up, and we can see that, and I'm glad you said Bears there. But the people listening to the podcast may have been confused.
That's right. I have a question. I have a prop question for you and the listeners before I give you my score prediction.
A prop, you say?
Yeah. What will be larger, the amount of collective sacks in this game, Cowboys Eagles, or the amount of collective touchdowns scored by the quarterback in Bills Chiefs? So there's going to be rushing touchdowns or receiving touchdowns if you want to be fair. So Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen overall touchdowns, or Cowboys Eagles sacks.
I'll take overall touchdowns because that's going to be a big. There's going to be a lot of scoring in that game.
So you're thinking like 6, 7, 8 touchdowns collectively? The real excellent went sacks, by the way.
I think it could be like 10. It could be high.
You think they're both going to score, or they're going to average 5 touchdowns between the two of them?
They could. I mean, Mahomes and Josh Allen are very capable of throwing 5 touchdowns in a game.
I'm not saying they're incapable.
4 plus the rushing. All right, whatever.
Kevin says sacks. Austin says I sub to BTB. Everybody who's watching, again, because this is on the BTB side of things, it's a little bit unfair. Within the description, once again, is the tag for Bleeding Green Nation. Click on them. Go subscribe. Go like their videos. We're all one big SB Nation family, one big NFC East Mixtape family as well. Okay. Like I said, I didn't come this far not to pick the Cowboys. I think it's another, like, this isn't like, oh my gosh, Cooper Rush went off and threw 3 touchdowns. Like, that's not happening. You know what I mean? This is the same kind of formula, same kind of game, same kind of thing. I think it's, I don't know, 22-19 Dallas. Yeah, 22-19. And then that's a long 2 weeks.
Yeah, it would be. I did not deny that. I said that in the mixtape. I think
is the mixtape, by the way.
The podcast mixtape we did.
That was also a video, just so we're clear.
That was not live. The non-live mixtape. There we go. I think it comes down to this. Occam's razor. Eagles can beat Cooper Rush. I think it's that simple.
We got a few predictions, by the way, from the crowd. Austin says Eagles 29, Cowboys 20. Kevin says Dallas 20 to 13 is the final score to win for them. Stella's 300 Cowboys says 24-10 Cowboys. Johnny Boy RN says 24-16 Dallas. Again, we're on the BTB feed here, so there's a lot more Cowboys fans.
Yeah, of course.
Michael Kiss is 25-12 Birds.
Okay, interesting score.
The real excellent has changed to 17 up is a tie.
Come on.
Mike Lilly.
What would your reaction be to a tie?
It would suck so much.
It'd be worse for the Cowboys, right? Like, just because the Eagles have not, just because they're ahead, like, obviously it wouldn't be exciting for the Eagles, but like, it's a tie would be more favorable to the Eagles, in my opinion.
Mike Lilly says Dallas 12, Eagles 10. Austin also notes that he is subbed to BGN as well. So well done. Okay, Brandon, as we leave, I would like you to give us another prop. Thank you. 3 animated movies.
Up. Because I said that earlier. It made me think of Up.
Okay.
When we talked about the only direction we could go. The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
And wait.
Is that the same phone? Did you get a new phone? Yeah.
I have a new phone coming to me, the new iPhone, but it takes a long time.
What was the third movie? I interrupted.
I didn't get to it. Third movie I've not seen. It's really good, so I have to go with it. But I can't think of it. Encanto.
We've never said the word Bruno here before.
We don't talk about him here.
Yeah. Last couple of comments. Perry Peters asks, "What is my hat?" This is an Oregon Ducks hat. My dad just went and played Bandon Dunes in Oregon.
Big Chip Kelly fan.
Anyone who's a big golf fan knows Bandon Dunes, so he brought me this hat from the university. Russ says 27-13 Birds, and the real excellent says, "Not gonna lie, I'm a Cowboy fan, but I spend more time reading Bleeding Green comments than I do BTB." Look at that.
We're always more fun.
We're all obsessed with each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to admit that. That's how the mixtape was born. For this, we united life. I mean,
that's the point. Football is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to look forward to your big games against your biggest rivals. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Who cares? The Eagles are playing the Cardinals last week. Who cares? Like, where's the juice for that? Like, okay, they beat them. Cool. Doesn't matter. Like, it's about the rivalry game.
All right. By the way, Kyle asks what my handicap is. It's like a 26. It's not great. We've got a 10-month-old. It's hard to get out. Whatever.
Wow.
All right, Brandon. We already did the 3 random things. Give us 3 random words.
I just gave you the movies. I have to do another
3 random words because we have to sign off.
I don't want to do that. You have to do it.
3. I like that. Perry says, "Thanks, guys. Enjoy listening to the to the mixtape every week." My 3 random words: NFC East Mixtape.